The Amazon after dusk folds in on itself, the canopy closing like a great green lung exhaling darkness. Cicadas fade, frogs take over. Mist rises from the river margins, wrapping the world in vapor and scent. Somewhere in that dim corridor between forest and floodplain, a shadow materializes, low, lithe, deliberate. Two eyes catch the faint gleam of starlight, then vanish again. The ocelot, Leopardus pardalis, has begun its rounds. To follow an ocelot at night is to trace a logic of edges. It rarely ventures into the deep forest where light and airflow die, nor across the open fields where exposure turns its rosetted coat into a beacon. Instead, it keeps to the seam, the transitional zone between structure and void. Fallen logs, driftwood jams, dirt roads reclaimed by roots, the narrow ledges that skirt a stream bank, all are highways in its world. Each holds more than footing, they hold scent. And scent in the nocturnal forest is information. When the air cools, scent molecules behave differently. Heat disperses them upward, night binds them low. On cooling soil or decaying wood, volatile compounds from glands, urine or prey residues settle and persist. What was fleeting in daylight becomes record at night. For the ocelot, this chemical slowdown is a kind of natural archive, an olfactory newspaper carrying the latest reports of who passed, when, and in what condition. Along these dirt roads and log piles, the cat isn't just moving, it's reading. Trail camera data confirms what intuition long suggested. Ocelots are habitual path followers, traveling linear routes with remarkable consistency. Heat maps from camera grids along forest edges show a surge of movement between 9 p.m. and 3 a.m., tracing narrow corridors that parallel waterways or human tracks. It's not random. These are the night's highways, zones of condensed scent and predictable geometry. In daylight, they are silent. By night, they hum with chemical signal. An ocelot's nose is more than a detector, it's an interpreter. Its olfactory bulb is proportionally larger than in many carnivores of its size, capable of passing layers of overlapping information. Gender, reproductive state, stress, diet, even the freshness of a mark. To it, a fallen branch or patch of damp clay is not background, but narrative. Each stop brings updates. Where the last capybara crossed, where another cat declared territory, where prey paused too long before plunging into safety. The ocelot reads these signs as if scanning a map that refreshes with dew. Driftwood lines, especially those left after seasonal floods, serve as corridors of condensed data. Logs soaked by water retain scent longer than soil, their porous fibers releasing it slowly back into the air. Here the ocelot pauses, nose tracing grain and bark, tail flicking in subtle concentration. It's hunting, yes, but not always for flesh. It's hunting for certainty. The cat's movement is efficient, low to the ground, shoulders rippling, pads landing with surgical precision. Every few minutes it halts, ears rotating independently like radar dishes. Somewhere beyond, a tinamou calls. Closer still, a rustle betrays an agouti nosing for fruit. The ocelot freezes, invisible. A single step could betray it, so it waits until wind and background noise mask the next motion. This is not the sprint of a jaguar or the power ambush of a puma. The ocelot operates in increments, each one informed by data only it can smell. Researchers studying scent persistence on dirt trails have begun to quantify what the ocelot seems to already know. Tests using synthetic scent sticks reveal that under nocturnal humidity, Mammalian scent traces can linger 3 to 4 times longer than under daytime heat. The night's cooler air slows volatilization, while dew traps scent particles close to the surface. In other words, the ocelot's world gets sharper as ours fades to grey. Night is not absence, it is density. Ecologically, this pattern has cascading effects. By concentrating along these night highways, ocelots inadvertently shape the behavior of smaller prey. Rodents and marsupials learn to avoid open paths after dusk, shifting to undergrowth or arboreal routes. Even insects respond. Some species of nocturnal beetles, sensitive to mammal odor, reduce surface activity when cat scent exceeds a certain threshold. The cat's nightly patrol is not just predation, it's governance. Each pass redraws the behavioral map of the forest's edge. Yet these same highways also connect the ocelot to its competitors. The same trails used by it are used by tigers, foxes, and even pumas. Infrared footage often captures ocelots inspecting old tracks with visible agitation, sniffing, scraping, then overmarking. Chemical warfare at the molecular level. Through scent, they negotiate boundaries, breeding opportunities, and hierarchy without ever meeting. The edge is not only corridor but forum, a place where absence speaks. When rain falls, the system resets. Heavy downpours wash the record clean, forcing the ocelot into active reconnaissance. It moves faster, covering greater ground to rebuild its internal map. Field teams have noted spikes in travel distance following the first rains after dry spells, as if the cat is re-downloading the forest's data. Once the air dries, movement slows again, returning to methodical patrol. The night breathes in patterns, and the ocelot moves with it. If we could experience its perception, the night would look nothing like darkness. Instead of shapes, there would be trails of scent twisting through air and across ground, glowing in gradients of freshness and intensity. Every footstep of prey, every splash, every decaying fruit would radiate invisible trails. The cat's brain assembles these into a sensory landscape of astonishing precision. It knows which scent lines are fading and which are newly written. It senses direction from molecular asymmetry, the faint difference between where scent particles come from and where they drift. To it, the forest is not chaos, it is language. This sensory mastery reveals a truth about predation in the tropics. Seeing is the least reliable way to survive. Vision is fickle in the jungle. Light filters through layers, reflections distort, shadows lie, but scent endures. It is the river of the invisible, and the ocelot, more than perhaps any other medium-sized predator here, has learned to navigate by that current. In places where human disturbance encroaches, this ancient logic persists in strange new forms. Dirt roads, abandoned logging tracks, and even pipeline corridors become modern scent highways. While many animals avoid them, ocelots often exploit them under cover of night, using our infrastructure as substitutes for the fallen logs and flood-scoured trails of old. In these artificial corridors, trail cam footage shows consistent traffic, ocelots padding past within hours of one another, leaving and reading scent in an endless relay. To them, civilization has simply added new chapters to the forest's book. So are ocelots hunting, or just reading the night's traffic? The answer lies somewhere in between. Their intelligence blurs the line between pursuit and interpretation. They don't merely chase prey, they audit the system that produces it. Each step through a trail or logjam is both investigation and opportunity, a survey of ecological pulse. When the moment comes, a rustle, a scent spike, a shift in airflow, they act with instantaneous precision, collapsing knowledge into motion. As dawn approaches, the night's script dissolves. The humid air warms, the scent trails rise and scatter, and the ocelot retreats to cover. It finds a hollow log or dense tangle where the heat can't reach. The forest begins to fill again with color, and the night highways fade into invisibility. But they are not gone. They wait beneath the noise and glare of day, ready to open again when the light falls and the air thickens, when the forest returns to its quiet traffic of scent, and the ocelot resumes its nightly reading of the world's most ancient text. The Amazon's night does not fall, it rises. Mist lifts off the river as the sun withdraws, and the water begins to claim the light for itself, swallowing reflections whole. The air thickens, rich with the scent of silt, tannin, and decay. Along the banks, where the last streaks of gold fade to blue, the forest exhales. Frogs ignite into chorus. Insects take over the frequencies abandoned by birds. And beneath this layered hum, another sound, faint, rhythmic, almost geological, breaks through, the deliberate tread of something heavier than the night itself. The jaguar moves. To see it by day is to witness raw geometry, shoulders rolling under rosettes of sunlight, muscles built for torque, not distance. But by night, the cat becomes function distilled. Its coat, once radiant, now serves as camouflage among the voids of shadow and moonlight. Its pupils widen, swallowing light whole. The tapetum lucidum in each eye amplifies what little illumination the river offers, doubling visibility where ours ends. The jaguar's world is not dark, it is perfectly legible. And legibility, for this predator, means choice. Data from GPS-collared individuals reveal a pattern invisible to the casual observer, a law of movement that unfolds after dusk. Jaguars that patrol riverbanks by day, moving along stable, hard-packed edges where sunlit prey come to drink, shift locations at night. They abandon the dry, firm ground of daylight hunts for something more treacherous. The collapsed, muddy banks where caimans wallow, where the footing gives way under every step, where sound and water blur. It is here in the unstable terrain between earth and river that the jaguar's night begins. The logic behind this switch is as physical as it is biological. On hard banks, sound travels efficiently. Vibrations ripple through compacted soil, betraying movement before sight. A single misplaced step can alert prey meters away. But on collapsed banks, where the mud is soft, the acoustic signature changes. Sound dissipates into the viscous ground, absorbed by waterlogged sediment rather than carried across it. The same softness that challenges the caiman's movement mutes the jaguar's. It's not stealth by silence, but stealth by physics. Acoustic mapping confirms this advantage. Researchers placing vibration sensors along various river edges found that a jaguar's step on a soft, water-saturated bank produces less than 1/3 the detectable range of a step on dry clay. The night amplifies this benefit. As humidity climbs and temperatures equalize, acoustic contrast between predator and background noise collapses. The forest's chorus, the crickets, frogs, dripping leaves, creates a natural sound camouflage. In the equation of the night hunt, darkness doesn't just hide the jaguar, it chooses the ground where it wins. From a thermal drone's vantage point, the scene looks abstract. Patches of heat and cold sliding across the Black River mosaic. Caiman bodies, still radiating the warmth of the day, glow faintly along the banks. The jaguar's signature is cooler, blurred by its fur and slower metabolism. It approaches not head-on but diagonally, exploiting the caiman's lateral blind spot. When it strikes, it doesn't roar or leap from a distance. It erupts, a singular burst of acceleration fueled by muscles designed for short violence. The kill lasts seconds. Jaws clamp behind the skull, severing the spinal column with surgical precision. The river swallows the sound before it can echo. To understand why these hunts concentrate along soft banks, biologists have mapped kill sites over time, comparing diurnal and nocturnal patterns. By day, kills scatter along predictable corridors, trails near drinking pools, tapir crossings, capybara paths. At night, the clusters tighten along collapsed sections of the river, places where the earth gives way into slow erosion. These are not chance encounters. They are chosen arenas dictated by hydrology and moonlight. When darkness falls, the jaguar shifts from a daylight stalker of land mammals to a riverine assassin. There is a secondary advantage to these unstable zones: prey predictability. Caimans, when resting or basking after dusk, avoid deep water where predatory fish or rival caimans lurk. They favor shallows where the river meets land, precisely where collapsed banks create thermal microclimates. These muddy ledges retain the day's heat longer, drawing ectothermic animals toward them. The jaguar, with its acute spatial memory, knows this rhythm. It visits these banks not randomly, but rotationally, cycling through favored ambush points in a pattern that mirrors the river's own changing structure. Field observations suggest that jaguars can detect subtle variations in soil firmness, likely through vibrational feedback in their paw pads. A single step on saturated clay tells them what sound profile the ground will produce. Their gait adjusts accordingly, longer strides on firmer mud, shorter, lighter placements on unstable ground. This mechanical sensitivity allows them to traverse terrain that would mire heavier predators. When a caiman shifts to adjust its weight, the jaguar already knows where to step next. The riverbank becomes an extension of its sensory system, a living instrument played through patience. Even their physiology is tuned for this terrain. The jaguar's compact frame and broad chest lower its center of gravity, stabilizing it during lunges across slick mud. Its short limbs deliver immense power without the leverage loss of longer legs. Its bite, the most forceful among big cats relative to size, crushes through armor that would deflect lesser predators. Every adaptation, the dense musculature, the waterproof coat, the near-silent movement through water, converges on this theater of mud and moonlight. The ecological result is paradoxical. The jaguar, the forest's top predator, is most dominant where the ground itself is weakest. The soft banks that collapse under weight provide the perfect stage for ambush. Where stability ends, power begins. And through this dynamic, the jaguar exerts invisible governance over the river's edges. Its presence influences where caimans bask, where capybaras drink, even where fish schools shift in response to repeated strikes. The entire shoreline adjusts around the predator's preferences. In human terms, it's a kind of nocturnal zoning law, an ecological code, enforced not by intent, but by consequence. The jaguar chooses the ground that mutes its sound, and the ecosystem recalibrates around that choice. The forest learns to avoid its silence. When researchers compare acoustic and GPS data across seasons, they find another pattern. Jaguars favor softer banks during dry months, when river levels fall and mud margins widen, but return to firmer ground in floods. The bank switching law flexes with hydrology, adapting to shifting soundscapes. Each rise and fall of water rewrites the cat's map of advantage. In this way, the jaguar isn't just a hunter of animals, it is a hunter of environments, constantly locating where the physics of its own anatomy meet the vulnerabilities of others. Near midnight, under a half moon, the scene resolves into stillness again. The river is quiet, save for the low click of insects and the slow crackle of water against root. Somewhere downstream, a caiman surfaces, exhaling a plume of mist. The jaguar watches from the shadow of a fallen bank, its eyes faint mirrors of the stars above. It does not move, it does not need to. The river will bring opportunity to it. The laws of night, light, sound, texture are already written in its favor. So, does darkness choose where a jaguar wins? It does, but not by magic. Darkness alters sound, shifts heat, redefines terrain. It transforms the riverbank into a different world, one where physics tilts toward the predator. In daylight, the jaguar rules by muscle. By night, it rules by silence. And every step it takes on those yielding banks is a negotiation between earth, water, and moon, a pact written in mud, enforced by teeth and renewed every time the jungle breathes out and the light goes out of the river. The river at night becomes a mirror without reflection. The surface holds its breath, black and still, broken only by the faint tremor of insects touching down and the soft exhale of fish near the shallows. Above it, a new kind of hunter drifts through the air, small, narrow-winged, and precise. Each beat of its wings cuts the humidity, scattering droplets of mist into the darkness. To human eyes, it's nearly invisible. To the fish below, it's the last thing they never see. The fishing bat, Noctilio leperinus, hunts by reading water as if it were text, each ripple a letter, each vibration a sentence. From a low angle, under the moon's pale glaze, the scene is hypnotic. The bat sweeps in tight arcs over a calm cove, flying low enough that its wingtips occasionally brush the surface, leaving faint silver wakes. Every few seconds it emits a pulse, an ultrasonic click that no ear can hear, but which paints the water in sound. The returning echoes aren't just reflections of distance. They're distortions, warps and bends that carry information about texture, density, and motion. To the bat, the river's skin is a live map of tiny impacts. Every insect, every fin flick, every gasp of air becomes a moving point of light in its acoustic vision. What makes this system extraordinary isn't just echolocation, it's interpretation. Scientists studying fishing bats discovered that they aren't fooled by the random clutter of waves or raindrops. They can distinguish biological ripples, those made by struggling fish, from those caused by inanimate disturbances. The difference lies in rhythm and decay. When a fish nears the surface, its fins break tension in quick, asymmetric bursts, producing what physicists call stress ripples, high-frequency, non-repeating patterns that spread unevenly. The bat's brain decodes these like fingerprints, identifying the signature of life in a chaos of movement. High-speed infrared footage captures this almost supernatural skill in action. A bat glides just above the water, then suddenly veers, claws dropping. Its hind legs, long and hooked, rake the surface in a single pass. A droplet flash, a ripple, and the bat pulls upward with a small fish thrashing in its grip. The entire maneuver takes less than a second. The claws, curved like surgical instruments, slice through surface tension with minimal resistance. The prey is carried to a perch or devoured mid-flight, stripped clean before it ever knows the sky exists. To understand how it finds such precision in darkness, researchers performed artificial ripple playback experiments. They generated waves on calm pools using different mechanical frequencies, some mimicking insects, others fish, others mere wind. Only the ripples matching the irregular, stressed patterns of surfacing fish triggered attack runs. This suggests that the bat is not reacting to sight or chance. It is identifying a ripple barcode, a specific hydrodynamic language that distinguishes the living from the inert. It reads the water the way we might read Braille, through distortion, not through image. Evolution has built this bat as both pilot and instrument. Its wings are long and narrow, adapted for endurance glides across open water, unlike the short, agile wings of forest bats. The feet are oversized, almost comically so, each toe ending in a hooked claw capable of slicing through surface film. The muzzle is wide, with deep facial folds that channel echolocation calls forward in a focused beam. Inside its ears, membranes vibrate at ultrasonic frequencies, while specialized neurons in the auditory cortex synchronize signals from both ears to construct a 3D topography of sound. What results is not a vague echo map, but a detailed dynamic model of space, down to the millimeter distortions caused by a breathing fish. But precision comes with constraint. The fishing bat's window of opportunity is narrow. It hunts in the hour after dusk, when the wind dies and the water turns glassy. Too much ripple clutter from rain or wind masks the cues it depends on. Too little light means the fish dive deeper, sensing safety. Too much, and the bat risks silhouette exposure to raptors. It exists in the delicate seam between wind and stillness, where the world briefly balances on silence. Ecologically, this behavior links two domains, air and water, that rarely intersect so intimately. The fishing bat occupies the liminal zone between them, a predator of reflection. Each night, it removes hundreds of small fish from the surface layers, subtly influencing the structure of aquatic food webs. Its feeding pressure regulates schooling behavior, pushing fish to alter surfacing times and depths. In turn, that affects insect populations, algae growth, and nutrient cycling across the water column. The bat may seem ephemeral, a flicker of wings above dark water, but its predation reverberates through the ecosystem in measurable ways. Thermographic cameras show that bats follow consistent flight lanes over rivers, much like ocelots follow trails on land. These routes trace along coves, backwater pools, and eddies where fish are forced to the surface by oxygen scarcity. In still water coves, ripples last longer, several seconds instead of 1 or 2, allowing more time for detection. In this sense, the bat isn't just reading the water, it's exploiting the physics of calmness. Where the river slows, information lingers. From the bat's perspective, the world is made not of shapes, but of vibrations. A single pulse can tell it how far away a wave is, how large the object beneath it might be, and even how fast that object is moving. This sensory translation, sound into geometry, occurs in microseconds. The auditory system of Noctilio is so fast that it can compare returning echoes within intervals of less than 1/10,000th of a second. Humans, by contrast, can't consciously detect timing differences below a few thousandths. To the bat, the river is slow motion. To us, it is chaos. And yet, the fishing bat's mastery is fragile. Light pollution disrupts its timing, and engine noise from boats can scatter echoes. In disturbed areas, hunting success drops sharply. Some individuals adapt by shifting to insect prey over land, but the specialized claws and sonar tuning reveal what they were built for: water reading. In pristine coves, they remain the undisputed aerial fishers, coastal sentinels that navigate by invisible scripts written across the river's skin. The evolutionary lineage of this behavior stretches back millions of years. Early bats were insectivorous, their sonar designed to detect fluttering wings. Over time, a few began experimenting with larger prey, snatching frogs and crustaceans near water. The fishing bats represent the culmination of that shift, a complete re-engineering of echolocation for the unique acoustic physics of water. Where most surfaces scatter sound chaotically, water reflects it coherently, producing clean, mirror-like returns. But those same properties can hide subtle movements. Detecting fish ripples required the development of extreme auditory resolution, the ability to hear changes smaller than a wavelength of sound itself. In that sense, every hunting pass is an evolutionary symphony of timing, sound, and motion. There's poetry in this precision. While most predators track the body, the fishing bat hunts the idea of the body, the disturbance it leaves behind. It never truly sees its prey until it strikes. It relies on inference, on patterns of distortion written into the surface world. The river becomes a manuscript in motion, its sentences curling outward in concentric rings, and the bat, blind to our eyes yet omniscient in its own, reads every line. As the night deepens, the air cools, and the bats retreat to their roosts, crevices under bridges, hollow trees, or cliff caves. The river resets itself, erasing all trace of their passage. The ripples flatten. Silence returns. Yet in the data logs of high-speed cameras, in the echoes recorded by microphones, the truth remains. These bats can indeed read water like a book, one written not in ink but in motion, not for sight but for sound. By dawn, the first light touches the water, dissolving the night's text. The fish rise again, unaware that their movements have already been read, interpreted, and answered. The bat sleeps, its mind still vibrating with the memory of echoes. For one brief hour of stillness each night, it is both author and reader of the river's secret language. Midnight on the floodplain is a study in contrast, warmth fading from the mud, the air thick and heavy, and the water black as cooled metal. The jungle exhales steam as if the day's heat were a memory it must surrender. Along the river's edge, invisible beneath the surface, an ancient line of scales shifts without a ripple. The black caiman, Melanosuchus niger, drifts through its element with the patience of geology. It has survived ice ages, extinctions, and empires of insects and mammals alike. Its world is rhythm, not noise, temperature, not light. Seen through thermal cameras, the landscape glows like an inverted constellation. The air cools quickly, vegetation fades to blue, but the mammals, the capybaras, tapirs, and peccaries that come to drink, burn like embers. Their warm bodies stand out against the cooling earth as if the night itself were revealing its targets. This is the caiman's hour, when thirst becomes a spotlight. The black caiman's hunting method is almost mathematical. Unlike daytime ambushes that rely on vision or vibration, its nocturnal strikes are guided by heat. Embedded along the jaws are thousands of sensory pits, small black pores called integumentary sensory organs that can detect micro changes in water pressure and, more crucially, temperature. When a mammal steps into the shallows, the disturbance sends ripples of warmth through the water column. The caiman's face, more sensor array than flesh, reads those gradients in real time, mapping the prey's outline in invisible light. From above, thermal drones reveal what the human eye never could, the heat bars of the night. They appear as glowing streaks along the edges of rivers and lagoons, bands of residual warmth where animals gather to drink, cool off, or cross. As the surrounding mud and air lose heat, these mammalian signatures become concentrated, creating what ecologists have begun calling thermal corridors. To the caiman, they are highways of opportunity. Strike records show that kills occur disproportionately along these narrow thermal gradients, where prey predictability and temperature contrast intersect. The caiman doesn't need to see. It waits where the physics is in its favor. When a capybara kneels to drink, its belly and legs enter the water first, the hottest parts of the body. Those limbs send faint currents of heat radiating outward. The caiman, lying motionless inches below the surface, senses the intrusion as a distortion in its thermal field. Muscles that have lain still for hours contract in silence. The jaws open just enough to allow a single bubble to rise. The strike is not rage, it is resolution. The anatomy behind that motion is as old as the river itself. The black caiman is the largest predator of the Amazon basin, reaching over 5 meters and a weight of half a ton. Its skull is a fortress, its bite force exceeding 2 tons per square inch. Yet its true weapon is not power, it is timing. A strike from full stillness depends on impeccable spatial calculation. High-speed thermal footage shows that from the moment prey heat crosses threshold distance, the caiman initiates a 3-stage lunge: neck extension, tail propulsion, jaw closure, all completed in less than half a second. The mouth shuts before the prey's nervous system has even registered alarm. The kill zone is not random. Decades of field data show that individual caimans maintain territories centered around predictable thermal intersections, river bends, shaded coves, and half-dry oxbow margins where groundwater seepage keeps mud cool through the day, but mammals gather at night. Each spot is a physics equation written into the land. Warm prey plus cooling substrate plus still water equals maximum contrast. Over time, these spots become consistent hunting stages. To human observers, they appear unremarkable. To the caiman, they are coordinates of certainty. But to call this predator cold-blooded misses the point. Its relationship with temperature is dynamic. During the day, black caimans bask to elevate body temperature and metabolic readiness. By night, they become thermal mirrors, their own skin cooling to match the water almost perfectly. Infrared imagery shows them disappearing into the background, their bodies only a few degrees above the surrounding surface. They are not invisible through stealth, they are invisible through equilibrium. When the environment and the predator share the same temperature, the boundary between them dissolves. Every ecosystem has its moments of forced vulnerability. For Amazonian mammals, water is both necessity and hazard. As the dry season deepens, surface water retreats into fewer pools, concentrating life around shrinking resources. These pools become stage sets for thermodynamic drama. Caimans congregate here, their bodies forming a submerged lattice beneath the water, spaced meters apart but united by shared intent. When the first animal approaches, one caiman strikes, others remain still, conserving energy for later. Predation, in this sense, is not competition, but partition, a tacit rotation that ensures no effort is wasted. Thermal drones hovering above reveal this orchestration in eerie clarity. Each mammal radiates a bloom of light. Each strike erases one. Between attacks, the pools cool again until a new glow enters the frame. This cycle repeats across hours, a slow, relentless metronome of hunger and heat. The physiology that enables such precision extends beyond sensory organs. The black caiman's metabolism, slow by mammalian standards, allows it to operate on minimal oxygen. It can stay submerged for over an hour, heart rate dropping to a few beats per minute. This metabolic suppression synchronizes with its sensory vigilance. Even as its body enters energy-saving mode, its jaw receptors remain active, continuously scanning for heat fluctuations. It's as if the animal sleeps with half its nervous system awake. Ecologically, this apex predator plays a role far beyond its strikes. By controlling populations of capybara, caiman indirectly shape riverbank vegetation. Grazing mammals remove seedlings. When their numbers are checked, regrowth increases, stabilizing soil and slowing erosion. In this way, each kill becomes a small act of environmental regulation. The caiman's ambush doesn't just feed itself, it repairs the shoreline. At the same time, the predator's dependence on thermal contrast reveals the fragility of its niche. When water pollution alters turbidity or temperature retention, the thermal gradients that guide its hunt become distorted. Nighttime surface temperatures near human settlements remain unnaturally high due to heat absorption by concrete and boat traffic, blurring the caiman's sensory map. In such areas, hunting success plummets. The ancient calculus of heat and hunger begins to fail. For now, in the untouched stretches of Blackwater River, the system still functions as it has for millennia. The moon slides through a broken canopy, casting silver patches across the floodplain. Somewhere in that darkness, an animal drinks, its breath steaming in the cold air. The caiman feels the pulse of warmth against its jaw. There is no rush, no sound. Only alignment. When the angle is perfect, it moves, a whisper of displaced water, a closing of the circuit. The forest exhales, the ripples spread, and the night resumes its silence. So we return to the question: when does thirst become a spotlight? In the world of the black caiman, it happens the moment the night begins to cool. The instant heat, hunger and physics meet on the same page. The prey seeks relief. The predator reads temperature like text. To one, water is salvation. To the other, its signal. Between them lies only the brief shimmer of contrast, gone as quickly as it appears, swallowed by the perfect darkness of the Amazon midnight. Night descends on the blackwater lagoons of the Amazon like ink poured across glass. The last daylight drains from the canopy, and what remains is motion, tiny silver flickers of fish at the surface, the sigh of air bubbles rising from roots, the slow drift of silt in suspension. Somewhere below, a shape moves through the gloom, long and deliberate, flexing with quiet confidence. It is not a snake, though it looks like one. It is not a fish in the ordinary sense, though it breathes like one. It is a paradox sculpted by evolution, the electric eel, Electrophorus electricus, a creature that lives between breath and current, pulse and stillness. The eel breaks the surface suddenly, mouth gaping to gulp air. The sound is small, just a faint pop, but in the silent water, it's an event that sends every nearby fish darting in reflex. For a fraction of a second, the lagoon stirs with confusion, and in that brief interval, something happens below. A flash of motion, a ripple of lightless impact. Another eel, hidden in the dark, lunges into the chaos, releasing a burst of electricity that crackles invisibly through the water. A cluster of stunned prey tumbles sideways. The trap closes. To understand the sophistication of that moment, we have to see the electric eel not just as a solitary hunter, but as an engineer of opportunity. Each breath it takes at the surface, its air gulp window, is more than a physiological necessity. It is also perhaps a lure. These gulps come roughly every 10 minutes when the eel's vascularized mouth lining needs oxygen replenishment. In calm water, the gulp breaks surface tension, creating both sound and vibration. To small fish, these disturbances resemble the surface activity of insects or other prey. They draw near, investigating the ripples. To other eels, those same signals are cues, flashing markers of where prey is now distracted. In this hypothesis, what some researchers call the distraction trap theory, the eel's need to breathe doubles as an ecological signal generator. The act of surfacing creates a temporary field of confusion that others exploit. In controlled experiments using synchronized hydrophones and thermal cameras, scientists have recorded spikes in electrical discharge activity within seconds of an individual's air gulp. The pattern is too consistent to be coincidence. It suggests a communal logic, not coordinated like a pack, but opportunistic. Predators tuned to one another's physiology. Under the surface, electric eels patrol like living power lines. Their bodies, nearly 2 meters long, are composed largely of electrocytes, modified muscle cells capable of generating charge. When excited, these cells align, releasing voltage like the firing of a biological battery. The low-voltage discharges form a kind of sonar, mapping the environment through electrolocation. The high-voltage bursts, however, up to 600 volts, are weapons capable of stunning fish, deterring predators, or communicating aggression. At night, these functions converge. The eel's world becomes one of invisible architecture, ripples of current, zones of conductivity, overlapping fields of perception. In darkness, where vision fails, the electric sense dominates. Every submerged root and scale of prey has its electrical fingerprint, its distortion in the eel's self-generated field. The predator navigates through a storm of signals, differentiating the living from the inert, the edible from the empty. But when an eel surfaces for air, that field temporarily collapses. The mouth breaks contact with the water, and the electric circuit that ties it to its surroundings is briefly interrupted. For a second or two, the eel is blind to its own world. This sensory blackout is a dangerous vulnerability, one that evolution seems to have transformed into opportunity. By timing their gulps carefully and exploiting the reactions of nearby creatures, eels may have turned a weakness into bait. Hydrophone recordings from the Mamirawa Reserve in Brazil reveal an eerie rhythm to these events. In calm backwaters around midnight, the microphones capture two distinct patterns: the hollow plop of air gulps, followed seconds later by rapid clusters of high-voltage discharges from neighboring individuals. When overlaid with thermal drone footage, the timing is uncanny. Gulps occur at the center of prey-rich zones, and electrical bursts follow almost immediately along the perimeter. The result resembles a choreography of electricity and breath, a distributed hunt conducted without coordination, yet perfectly synchronized by physics. From a sensory standpoint, this makes sense. Fish, startled by surface disturbance, release their own bioelectric fields as they flex their muscles. These faint signals radiate outward like sparks. For eels lying in ambush just below, the sudden flare of electrical noise is irresistible. Their electroreceptors, tiny gel-filled pores called ampullae of Lorenzini analogues, detect these voltage fluctuations at nanoscopic levels. The prey reveal themselves through their panic. The breath above becomes the fuse below. The eel's body design enhances this predatory precision. Its elongated shape minimizes drag and allows rapid directional bursts through viscous black water. Its tail fin, fused with the anal fin, generates smooth waves of propulsion that can reverse instantly. This undulatory motion allows the eel to hover almost motionless before exploding into speed. During a strike, it often curls its body into a horseshoe, forcing electric current through the prey's position from both ends, a living circuit that closes around life itself. When seen through infrared and sound data, the spectacle is extraordinary. The first eel surfaces for air. Within 3 seconds, a second eel discharges. Within 5, ripples of motion spread outward. Fish leap, silence returns. Then again, another gulp, another burst. Over the course of a night, this sequence repeats dozens of times, producing an electrical rhythm woven through the nocturnal river. Each gulp a pulse, each strike an echo. The ecological consequence of this behavior is profound. By triggering repeated predator-prey interactions through their breathing cycles, electric eels influence the vertical distribution of fish populations. In lagoons where eel density is high, fish avoid the upper meter of water after dark, clustering closer to submerged vegetation or deeper channels. This changes nutrient flow, plankton distribution, and even oxygen dynamics in the microhabitats below. An act as simple as breathing becomes an engine of ecological structure. Yet there's more than predation here. In group hunting scenarios recently observed in the upper Amazon, electric eels display remarkable tolerance toward one another, herding small fish into concentrated shoals before launching coordinated high-voltage strikes. While this social hunting is rare, it may have evolved from simpler interactions like the breath trap, moments when one eel's surface disturbance incidentally benefits another. From those coincidences, patterns emerge, and from patterns, cooperation. Evolution often begins with accident. The question then arises, do the eels understand what they are doing, or are they merely following physics? The distinction may not matter. What matters is that the system works. Each breath refreshes not only the eel's oxygen, but the entire predatory circuit. The lagoon becomes a field of interactions, audible to microphones, visible to thermal cameras, but hidden to the naked eye. Above water, the night remains deceptively calm. Bats skim overhead, frogs call from the reeds, and the surface lies glassy once more. But beneath, electric fields weave and collide. Each eel carries its own domain, yet the boundaries blur as they move. Their world is invisible architecture, structured by conductivity and pulse. Every exhalation, every heartbeat, every flicker of muscle is felt by something else in that circuit. And when the next breath breaks the surface, it begins again, the bait and the strike, the shimmer and the shock. A fish rises to investigate the ripple, sensing food. The eel beneath senses the fish sensing. The loop closes, perfectly timed. So is every breath a bait? In the eel's world, yes. Each gulp of air is a signal sent into the fabric of the night, part necessity, part deception. In a realm where life is measured not by sight but by current, even respiration becomes strategy. The predator lives by two rhythms, one of lungs and one of voltage. Both feed the same hunger, both electrify the dark. The Amazon at night is rarely still. Beneath the smooth surface of its backwaters, a living tension hums just out of sight. The water glows faintly in the light of a waxing moon, silver on black, reflecting the restless shimmer of unseen movement below. It's a movement made not by one creature, but by hundreds, scales brushing scales, fins flicking in synchrony. A school of red-bellied piranhas slides like a single organism through the dark water, each fish a spark in a greater pattern. Every turn, every pause, every ripple is shared instinct. Together they are unity, together they are survival. But survival here is conditional, an equation rewritten every lunar cycle. When the moon fades, when the night thickens into ink and silence, the school draws in tight. Dozens of bodies move shoulder to shoulder, vibrating in dense formation. This is the dark night protocol: numbers over reach, proximity over speed. The piranhas become a fortress of eyes and lateral lines, tuned to the smallest shift in current or scent. Predators hunting by silhouette, caimans, dolphins, or catfish lose their edge in these nights without light. The piranhas sense before they see, defending one another through cohesion. Darkness for them is safety through solidarity. But as the moon returns, the equation flips. On bright nights, when light penetrates the upper meters of the river, the school expands. Individuals drift farther apart, using the shimmer of moonlight to track one another visually. The tight sphere dissolves into looser constellations, each fish patrolling its own small territory within sight of the rest. To a casual observer, it might look peaceful, a release of tension. In truth, it's a recalibration with lethal consequences. Because on these illuminated nights, the forest's other hunters take note. Thermal drones and hydroacoustic arrays reveal what the eye cannot. Under full moons, predator activity around piranha schools spikes dramatically. Jaguars wading into shallows, caimans stationed under drinking trails, and river dolphins patrolling edges all show elevated success rates. The reason lies in the loosened formation itself. Light gives confidence to the piranha, but also to those that hunt them. Spacing out under moonlight allows each fish greater access to foraging and oxygenated layers, but weakens the swarm's defense. It creates openings. It turns the synchronized into the vulnerable. This behavior isn't random. Studies tracking school density over lunar phases show a rhythmic pattern, a biological metronome tied to the sky. It's not driven by tides, as in marine fish, but by light intensity. On new moons, schools can contract to densities of 50 individuals per cubic meter. Under full moons, that number can drop by half. The transition occurs gradually across the lunar month, suggesting not reflex, but calibration. A slow oscillation tuned to an ancient light cycle. In the blackwater coves where these fish thrive, light behaves differently. The water absorbs most wavelengths, leaving the world tinted in greens and blues. To the piranha's eye, evolved for high contrast rather than detail, moonlight creates distinct light corridors, shafts of pale clarity where the surface reflects more strongly. Here they can track neighbors through flashes of scale and faint shadows. The same corridors, however, act as visual runways for predators above. A caiman's eyeshine scans these lanes like a beam through fog. For every fish that gains awareness, another becomes exposed. The irony is that the moon, indifferent and distant, plays both guardian and executioner. Its brightness amplifies perception for all. For piranhas, it expands vision, communication, and feeding opportunities. For their predators, it sharpens outlines and doubles detection distance. The result is an ecological seesaw. Prey expand, predators converge, and the night becomes a contested map of risk and reward. Field biologists have tried to decode this lunar toggle through multi-sensor experiments, combining hydrophones, sonar, and infrared cameras over consecutive nights. The patterns are consistent. On dark nights, school calls, short bursts of acoustic clicks used for spacing, rise in frequency, creating a constant chatter that helps the group maintain cohesion in low light. On bright nights, the clicks fall silent. The fish rely instead on visual tracking, dispersing in quiet confidence. Yet it's in those silent hours that more piranhas disappear. The question is why evolution allows such predictable vulnerability. The answer may lie in energy economy. Tight schooling costs more. The constant micro-corrections, the collisions, the sensory vigilance, all burn calories. During darker nights, predation risk justifies that expense. But under bright moons, when visibility improves and threat perception drops, the cost of cohesion outweighs its benefit. Looser spacing conserves energy and broadens foraging reach. Natural selection hasn't eliminated this behavior because it balances two opposing needs: collective defense and individual efficiency. The moon acts as the trigger, an external clock that modulates social tension. From the camera's view, the water glows with ethereal clarity. The piranhas shimmer in slow motion, their red underbellies catching stray beams from above. They are not mindless aggressors, as legend claims. They are tacticians, guided by context. Most of the time, their sharp teeth are tools for defense and deterrence, not frenzy. Yet when food scarcity or stress breaks the social balance, aggression ignites with terrifying speed. The same collective intelligence that defends them can turn inward, collapsing into chaos. Even that volatility, shaped by hunger, light and crowding, bears the imprint of lunar rhythm. The predators, too, are participants in this cycle. Caimans time their nocturnal patrols to coincide with bright lunar windows, exploiting the scatter of fish. River dolphins use echolocation more selectively on those nights, targeting echo-poor zones near dispersed individuals rather than dense schools. Even herons and nightjars along the banks adjust their perches, anticipating easy prey at reflective angles. The moon's pull extends beyond gravity. It choreographs behavior across species lines, turning the river into a living calendar of light. Yet despite the dangers, the piranhas return to the same rhythms each month. When the moon wanes, they tighten their ranks once more, a living sphere of muscle and instinct. Every individual vibrates within millimeters of its neighbor, a network of sensory feedback so precise that the entire school can pivot in unison faster than a predator can lunge. They move like a thought, and within that collective, the risk of being singled out drops nearly to zero. In those nights of deep darkness, safety is found not in solitude, but in synchrony. For researchers studying these fish, the revelation is humbling. Behavior that once seemed random or aggressive now unfolds as part of a broader environmental dialogue. The piranha is not a rogue killer, it is a mirror of its world, reacting to celestial and ecological cues with the precision of an instrument. The moonlight that strikes its scales is the same light that exposes it to danger. The darkness that hides it also confines it to dependence on the group. So, does the moon decide who gets eaten? In a way, yes. Its brightness dictates where fear ends and opportunity begins. When the moon is dark, the many become one, safer, silent, invisible. When it rises full, the many fragment into the few, and in that scattering, the predators feast. The lunar cycle, indifferent and eternal, writes a silent script across the river's surface. Each month the drama repeats, a choreography of light and hunger, order and vulnerability, And when the next new moon falls, the water will again turn black, the schools will close ranks, and the river will return to its whispering equilibrium. For a brief span, the moon's command will fade, and the piranhas will vanish once more into the safety of the unseen, proving that in this world, even survival answers to the sky.